Thank you guys, everybody who joined this morning. Thanks to those of you who joined as my pitch hitters. My guest today called or messaged this morning and she's really sick. So she asked if we could do the workshop another day. So I decided to just reach out to some of the amazing people that have come into my life over this last couple of years on my journey as I've gone from where I was to much closer to where I want to be. And we thought we would just give it a chat. We'll talk about our own experiences. We'll kind of give us our own stories about where we've come, how far we've come from where we are now. And then maybe some of your own advice, you guys, for how you've been on your journey. Mary Jo, I'm just gonna mute you because all your background noise is coming through. But just, it's not because I don't love you. Okay. So this was really pulled together last minute. So thank you guys all who are able to join. And let's see, this is not a substitute for my workshop that I'll do this month, but I did want to still show up today for you all. You guys designated that time to be here, to watch, to have something that you could count on in your email box today. And so that's what we're doing. So Jenna or Aude, do either one of you guys need to go soon? Should I start with one or the other?
Nope, unless there's kids, but we're good so far.
So Jenna, do you want to just kind of tell us your story first in case you have to jump on with one of your kiddos?
Sure. So I opened up a kids yoga company in September. I think it was like September 1st. It's called Little Wish Yoga. And I was inspired to do kids yoga since I am a previous first grade teacher. And I had taken a break from that to raise my little ones. And then I got involved with yoga for personal reasons. And I thought, why don't we combine the two? And I've run into some great teachers along my path. And they've just really lifted me up to have me open this company. And so now here I am with Little Wish, trying to get into more daycares and to more schools and bring yoga to as many little kids as possible. And when I mean little kids, I mean like any children all the way through teenagers.
So what was your own journey with yoga? Is it, I'm guessing it's like me with law of attraction, where law of attraction opened up my consciousness so wide and it helped me heal in so many ways that I felt compelled to want to share it with people. Is that kind of what you experienced with yoga?
Sure. Yeah, I actually started going to yoga. I've been going to yoga for a long time, probably since I was like 14 or something. And so that dates me. I'm 34 now. So yeah. So for a while I've been doing yoga. I had back surgery after about 9 months, after my first was born, and she's 6 now. And I started going to yoga after I was cleared from physical therapy, and yoga made me feel so great. I remember walking home from yoga one day, and I don't remember how I got home. I was totally, as you would say, blissed out. And I thought, wow, if I can feel this and didn't even intend, I didn't have that intention to feel that, what if I manifested that and brought that to more people? And so that's how I kept going.
You know, and that was, I actually had a car accident when I was 17, and that's how I kind of fell into yoga as well, is it actually became this tool that became one of the few things that helped me really manage my back pain after that. So it's really interesting.
Right.
I mean, when you can take care of your back, it really affects so much in your body.
Everything else.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing, Jenna. I saw that Dina and Domenic joined on also. Hi, guys. I know, Domenic, you said you only have 30 minutes. Dina, are you on a time crunch also?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, well, we're going to push you off and let Domenic jump in. Hey, Domenic, how are you? Good. I can't actually hear you, but you look good. Let's see. I'm going to unmute you. That might help.
How's that?
That's good. Hi, thanks for joining today. Thanks for being one of my pitch hitters.
Absolutely. I always like to return the favor.
Well, Dominic's had me on his group. He has this really awesome group called the Self-Achievement Network. And I've been on there a few times teaching his community about anxiety. And the first time I was on, I was actually a guest as like this person who's self-achieved. So I thought he'd be great to have on for our talk this morning. Domenic, what we decided to talk about was our journey. And any advice that you might have for people through what you've learned through your own journey for how people can get from where they are now to where they want to be. You've created this amazing group, the Self-Achievement Network, but do you want to share with us a little bit your journey about how you started from where you were to where you are now, and what was kind of some of the emotional urgings that you had, or intuitive urgings, or hardships that you had that kind of brought you to where you are?
Great. Yeah, hardships. Yeah, how much time do I have? It's a great opportunity, actually, and my story is real simple. I mean, I always say, and you know me well enough now, Leah, I'm a real practical guy. And out of high school, I went to the U.S. Navy and spent 4 years there. Out of the Navy, I went to college, and in the meantime, I got married, had a son, and got this job working in this factory. It wasn't like a factory job. It was more like an upscale job, working in what was called an anechoic chamber. I studied audio electronics. So what was happening was, in my life back then, I'm 60 years old right now. This is all in my mid to late 20s. Okay.
You were a baby still.
I was a baby. I was a tail wagger. And so what happened was, I was having rough times in my life, like so many people, going through a divorce, living with my parents. I had this factory job. I had to drive 40 miles to back and forth every day. Credit card debt, all this stuff was going on in my life in my late 20s. And I used to pride myself on, like, okay, so, I spent years in the military, and I got my act together and went to college and all this stuff. But from whatever reason, I had all this crap going on in my life. And I'm driving back and forth, riding on this motorcycle, freezing my ass off. And, the conversation is, I hate my life. My ex-wife, she's, all this stuff is going on, right? So I have a little brother, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And I called him up. Hey, what's going on? He says, come on over, let's have some beer. So I went over to his house, and his house was clean. He had a haircut, and he had clean clothes on. And it was like, what happened to you? Are you okay? Are you on drugs? No, maybe you're not doing drugs, right? So he said, no. He said, I went to do this seminar, and it was called The Experience of Your Life. And so I looked at this brochure, and I'm like, oh, $350, I don't have that much, and I don't need anybody to tell me what to do anyway. So I threw the brochure on the table, and we drank a few beers, and I left. Well, 2 years later, okay, I'm still riding my motorcycle down the highway, dodging snowdrifts, like freezing, right? I hate my life. So I got to work, and I'm like, I'm calling my brother, and I'm gonna go do this thing. So I called him up. Hey, you still have the brochure? Yes. Read me the phone number. I called. I registered. I put it on my credit card. The money I didn't have, and then I went to this thing. 4 days of like inner journey work and all this stuff from a guy who is very resistant to having anybody tell him what to do. So anyway, I went. 4 days later, I got out, and I was just like, oh my God, I was awake again. Like I woke up, and I didn't even realize like I was asleep. And what happened was very much like this. So when I like walked into this seminar room, like the lights were out. When I walked out, the lights were on, except my life was still messed up. So I drove home on my motorcycle that night, on Sunday night, freezing, except now I was like, oh my God, I love my life. I have all this opportunity. I got to turn my life around. This is great.
Perspective is powerful.
It is so true. So anyway, I go home, I sleep, I wake up, I get on my motorcycle, and I'm driving back to the factory, freezing my ass off, going, oh, I got to change my life. I can't take this. So I got to work, and I called this guy who was a facilitator, and he was like a mentor to a lot of people. And I said, his name is Luis. And I said, Luis, I have no idea where to start. I have so many big mountains to climb. And he's like, Domenic, what you need to do is reestablish your credibility with the people in your life because you have totally destroyed it. Now, I'm a liar, a cheater, a thief, you know, you name it. I did it, but thinking like that it was okay. That's what normal people do, all these things, right? So he said, here's what I recommend. And it's your life. You can do whatever you want to do.
Oh, we lost you, Domenic.
All the names, all the people that you did these things to and you lied to, and then you go to them and you clean it up. If you want to have a clean life, you want to live a life where you feel good about yourself, this is what he's telling me. And I'm like, yeah. You need to go and clean all that stuff up, and then you need to make promises to them that you're going to pay them back, that you're never going to lie to them, you're never going to cheat on them, and that's the process that you use to keep yourself on the straight and narrow. What do you think I was thinking about?
How much work that was going to be if you'd be able to maintain it.
Terrorized, like, oh my God, right? And I go to these, I made that list, and I go to these people. The first one was my father, and my father was like, yeah, right. Domenic, I don't trust you. I really want to. You're my son, but you're going to have to prove yourself. Oh, yeah, well, I deserved that, right? So anyway, then, I go to some of my friends, and they're all like, we don't believe you either. So that's where I started. And so after many years of volunteering for the organization and then becoming one of their facilitators, I just used this whole process, the mentorship, to create all my dreams. You know, the triangle with, easier to see down here, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
It's a triangle. You just look it up, Google it, try hierarchy of needs. It basically is the bottom part is the human life. It's the human journey through life. Maslow studied healthy people. So long story short, the bottom part of this triangle is about survival, where most people live. The top of the triangle up here is about self-actualization, actualizing our potential. But then there's the gap in between. The thing that people miss more than anything is that in order to go through this gap, like to get from out of survival mode to like getting into the self-actualization mode, creating your dreams, right? It's a two-part process. It's accepting responsibility. And this was the thing that I didn't do prior to going to the seminar. I didn't accept responsibility for the things that I was doing in my life. I was just making choices based on Domenic wanting to have fun and be Domenic. He didn't like me, too bad. My motto was sworn to fun, loyal to none. So anyway, I forgot where I was at.
Well, you were talking about how you had to learn to apologize to everybody in your life and take responsibility. You were talking about that self-actualization and that accepting
process. Yes,
yep.
Getting through this gap, right? People don't know how to get from being in this mode down here, right? Survival mode. It's taking responsibility, the ability to respond. I can respond to anything, but as long as if I don't have my goals up here, knowing where I want to go, I'll be doing all kinds of things that aren't working. Accepting responsibility. Acceptance is allowing myself, my life, my situation, whatever it is, to be the way that it is and the way that it's not. So that was one of the things I always didn't do. Didn't want to accept responsibility. So this is where I started. And anyway, I began to work on myself and stop doing that and start doing that and setting my goals up and putting it down and creating it. And, here I am 40 years later.
At what point did it go from wanting to prove to the other people in your life that you could treat them better to actually wanting to serve other people in the way that you do, like through this big organization you've created through the Self-Achievement Network?
Well, yeah, I think it's a real simple thing. It was, like an evolutionary thing. And I had think spent a number of years is all about Domenic. And then even after I went through this seminar, it's like I was the one. It was like I was focused always on me. And what I realized later on is that, you know, so many people have helped me along the way. And, you know, I had a back injury, so I was like traveling a lot. And then I played a lot of tennis, so I was, you know, I had a back injury. I told you about that, and I wasn't able to travel anymore as much. And so, yeah, giving back to people is really the thing, and giving people the opportunity, the younger people, the opportunity to create their dreams and do what they want to do and have a great life.
It's funny. I was talking to Jenna at the beginning of the video, and part of the reason she got into yoga was also a back injury, and part of the reason I got into yoga was a back injury. I feel like we need to do like a hand raise for everybody who has back problems.
Well, you know, I did yoga for many, many years and swore that everything was fine. And I don't really know. What a guy described it to me, it's kind of like you take a pop can, right? And then you fold it, you bend it, right? And that's how the discs are. And then, you know, you're bending all the time. And then sooner or later, there's a little crack. And then,
but it never really feels like a little crack, right?
No, it doesn't. And then, you know, once it gets so far, and yeah, then you're going to start feeling pain, but the crack is already there. It's like, oh, I hurt my back, but they don't realize the real damage that's in there. And I didn't realize that either. So it's really about hydration and what's called disc pumping. So you have to keep those discs puffy with fluid.
Okay, so
helps.
My next question, and it'll be my last question, so if you need to jump off after that, you can, but thank you so much for being here. It was so nice of you to kind of help me fill in my time. So I'll leave it with this. If you had to give somebody like the number one biggest piece of advice, if they wanted to go from this place that they are in that they don't want to be, and to manifest, for lack of better words, or to walk further down on their journey to be where they want to be in the future, what would be like the number one biggest thing you think they should do?
Get help.
That's a big one, because we can't always keep our egos out of the way and thinking we can just do it all ourselves. I love that.
It's about technology. So like back in the olden days when there was typewriters versus computers,
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like if you wanted to travel from point A to point B, and you had the options of riding a bicycle or, you know, getting in a jet plane. Which one are you going to want? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'm sure Forrest Gump would answer that differently.
Probably, but it depends. You know, it's like life is short. You know, when I'm 60, I'm like, okay, I still have a lot left to give. And looking back now, what I would do, I'd hop on the jet plane.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your insight.
Have fun today.
Thanks so much. I'm sure we will. This is a great group of people. Actually, Domenic, you'll have to explain it a little bit better, but he actually highlights people in his group who are doing good work out in the world, and through doing so, achieving through their own power. It's the Self-Achievement Network. And every month, how many people do you interview every month?
It varies. Usually, let's say 2 to 3 a week.
So I can definitely say all of you, pointing in the wrong camera, all of you would be great as guests on his network. So if you guys are open to me nominating you on his site, I will totally tag you guys.
Do it. It's a lot of fun.
Nominate you for an interview with Domenic. It's a really great group.
Called Person Behind the Passion. So we get to know who you are in addition to what you do.
I've really enjoyed the time that I've spent in his group. It's probably one of the groups that I spend the most time in out of all of the groups on Facebook, outside of mine, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Domenic.
Now I have to plug in. Yeah, I'm going to have to go because I'm losing power here.
No worries. Thanks for being here.
All right, Leah, thank you. And thank everybody for watching. Appreciate it. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. So who should we have next? How's everybody else doing on time? I want to make sure that I get you guys handled before time goes. We haven't heard. Hi, Christina. It's good to see you. I saw you pop on. Thanks for being here. Who has a limited time? I know Jenna has kids that might interrupt her at any moment because kids. Everybody else good? Yeah? Okay. So Jenna, I know we talked about your story, so let's just jump back real quick about your journey. And, you know, I asked Domenic at the end there if he could make one suggestion for going from the place you're in now to the place that you want to be in the future. And just kind of in your journey through what you've been through, motherhood and your back problems and creating your business, what would be the number one thing that you would recommend for somebody who's in a place they don't necessarily want to be and they have a vision of where they want to be, but they don't really know how to get there?
Oh, that's a big one.
It's a little question. A little one.
Well, I kind of jumping off of what Domenic said, I'm in my like the baby stages of my business. So I'm not really, you know, I'm like kind of at the beginning of my business journey, not the beginning of my yoga journey, but the beginning of my business journey. And based on what Domenic said, it's your tribe, finding people like you, Leah, to collaborate with, and all these yoga teachers and educators that I've run into. So finding your tribe and staying connected and building each other up and supporting each other has been really helpful. A big thing for me personally, and it's part of my personal journey, not necessarily my business journey, but it helped me get and launch, is I moved last year back to my hometown. So now I'm grounded. So I think that really helps. So you can build a tribe, but if you personally aren't grounded, I don't feel like you're going to get anywhere. So I'm in a space where I'm grounded now, and so I feel like I can rise. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's always easier to push off when you've got firm ground underneath you than trying to like push off in the sand. I mean, have you ever tried to walk in the sand?
Right. So that's where I'm at.
Very cool. Well, I also understand if you have to jump and go handle kiddos, but I definitely wanted to circle back around and get your insight on your journey before.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll stay on as long as I can. Otherwise, if I duck out, nice to meet you all.
Good to see you. All right, Aude, you've been on for quite a long time. Do you want to share your story with us? And I know that you've had also quite the journey and recently in the last year started your own business. So do you want to share a little bit about your business and how you kind of came to be in that place where you knew that was the business you wanted to do?
Yes, yeah. So hi everyone. So my name is Aude. I have this French accent because I was born and raised in France. I still am, but I was a pharmacist there. I thought I was happily married and having 2 kids and life was perfect. But I didn't know that I was not living my life at my full potential until we decided to move here. 3 years and a half ago. Wow, time flies. So I am also an expat now. So talking about, not being grounded and being derooted, I've been experienced that. Even though my husband is American, but it's still not, not having my family close, having different cultural experience and everything. And then I am also a trauma survivor. I had PTSD, so I had, to really find ways to do something about this life that I thought I had and that I thought I had lost. But now I'm not saying it this way. I didn't lose anything. I learned and I thrived from that, and I'm in a much better place than what I thought I was before. So I'm kind of even thankful for these events to have happened because they helped me be who I am now and starting a new business, which I had never even thought about in my wildest dreams. So so what I do here is I'm also an aromatherapist and a flower essence compounder. So what I like to how I like to describe what I do is I do botanical alchemy. The alchemy being the transformation from lead to gold. So in my case, it's really finding ways to transcend the negative emotions and the painful scars or negative experience in your life into more joy. And I do that with, parents and children, because I think children are awesome to work with from an energetic point of view, and they're so much receptive to fragrance from essential oils, but also to the energy of flower essences. So yeah, to me, the my transformation has happened through plants and botany, so essential oils and flower essences, and it has been a total renewal.
And I have to say, I know this because Aude was one of my guests on one of my workshops one month, but when you move to the United States from another country, you lose your ability to practice if you are a doctor or a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually know quite a lot of people who were either psychiatrists or nurses. Aude, who was a pharmacist, when they moved to the United States, they actually have to go to school all over again to become recertified, I guess the word is, or to receive like their doctorate again. So I love how Aude said, I already have this knowledge. I've already been practicing, I already know what I'm doing. So how can I reframe this in a way? How can I use this resistance? How can I use this change in my path to still serve others and use the knowledge that I have and to use what I'm already passionate about? So.
And well, the good thing is that I learned it from another perspective. I can still say I have the chemical background or the neuroscientific background of what I know, but I also transformed it into a more holistic approach to health, which has been also life changing. It's using it, but also transforming it.
Absolutely. And you did mention that there is a little bit of an overlap in French pharmacies versus United States pharmacies, where you do find like flower essences and natural and homeopathic remedies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, essential oils are part of the training. Everything that's health related in Europe, it's not just in France, it's part of the studies that we do, because it's considered a medicine.
So did you find when you were going through your hard times that you were leaning much more so into your knowledge of the natural remedy sides of things? Did you find that those were more gently supporting you? Why did you lean into those going through the times that you did?
Well, the easy option would have been to put myself under antidepressant and anti-anxiety panic attacks and stuff, just and I knew it would totally kill my personality or muzzle me into somebody I didn't want to be. And because I had this knowledge of the chemical drugs or the chemical medicine and how they interact with our brain, I knew one thing is that I didn't want that, but I needed to find ways to be supported because I couldn't do it by myself. And I think what Domenic said, get help was the major thing. You're not alone in your journey. And whatever way you find to get support, whether it is yoga or essential oils or flower essences, for me, it doesn't matter. We each of us has to find what brings joy and bring us back into being grounded and being whole in who we are. So it doesn't matter the vectors you use, but find help, because you're not alone in this journey, and you don't have to do it all by yourself and prove that you're strong and that you can make it and you can
But I think there's a lot of social conditioning. I don't know if it's the world at large, but I know definitely in the United States where it's frowned upon it's okay to have a devastating illness as long as it's not a mental health illness. There's just this stigma about being weak psychologically and not being optimistic all the time, not being positive all the time.
That's very true.
And I feel like those are the people that need the connection and the help the most, because sometimes you can be having anxiety and depression and all you need is to be with a supportive group of people to lift you up. You don't even need anything more than that. And yet that's the one thing that you're afraid to reach out and ask for because of how you may be responded to because of all the social and cultural stigmas. So I'm so glad that you were able to find tools for you through your existing knowledge.
You're very right. It's something that I've experienced. Even just going to school in France, you would go to school and say, somebody would ask you, how are you? You would say, oh, I had a super crappy night. My kid, woke me up. I had to get up 3 times and now I'm late and these kids drive me crazy. And I felt like, doing this here, you're looked as a weirdo for not enjoying life every moment and loving it every second. And so I felt that I couldn't be, very genuine and true to my emotions because it was not well perceived, especially, maybe just because the school I'm going to is different. I don't know, but I felt like I couldn't share, my emotions. I could share being super excited or enthusiastic, but I couldn't share needing help, and not being happy with my feelings and my emotions.
So I'm going to ask the same question for everybody so everybody else can start to prepare. But if you were to say that there was one really great big first step that you needed to take, if you were in a place where you didn't want to be and you could see the vision of where you wanted to be, but you really weren't quite sure how you were going to connect the two, what would be your advice? Like, what would be even if it wasn't the first step, what was the step that helped you the furthest along on your journey?
Well, I think I've already kind of said it. It's really, you're not alone in this journey, and please do find the ways that support you, whatever it may be. Whether yoga, coaching, whatever supports you, mindfulness. Just find the ways that give you support, and find your tribe. What Jenna said is really important too, and yes, be grounded. So find the ways to get all this.
Right. And I definitely agree with the finding your tribe piece, but I feel like so often I see this with my kids too, where we connect with our tribe based on convenience, but it may not even necessarily be the tribe that's satisfying us the best or connecting with us on a deeper level the best. I feel like with my kids, they connect with kids because it's convenient in their classroom, but they're not the type of kids that they feel like they're really having a really mutual beneficial connection with. Not that the other kids are not great kids, but there just doesn't seem to be that extra soul connection. Do you know what I mean? Not that I expect all kids to be able to develop this at, kindergarten. But, it's okay to be picky about your tribe too, because obviously if you're spending time with people who are negative or who don't believe in you or your journey, then that's not going to be a good tribe to have. So, being sure that this is like really your soul tribe, the people that want to see you succeed, the people that want to see you thrive. Because even though there's people that will like you and like to spend time with you, there's also people that if they haven't done a lot of healing on their own, they could also still be wondering a little bit of jealousy, maybe like, why can't they be doing the things that you're doing? Or it's scary to see what you're doing because they're not in a healed enough place to be stepping out on their own journeys. And so I totally agree with the tribe thing, but that was just my little extra disclaimer. Well, thank you so much, Aude, for jumping on today. I really appreciate you being one of my pitch hitters. I got to pronounce that carefully. Pitch hitters. All right, Dina, Christina, thank you guys for hanging in there. Do you guys want to go one then the other, or do you guys want me to intermingle you, sprinkle you?
Whatever. Your show, darling.
I know, it was such a let's put it together. Let's do it. All right. Well, Dina, why don't you go ahead and jump in, because I actually don't know a whole lot about what you do. We just met recently on this collaborative book project, and we met at the book signing, and your energy on the page where we've been discussing all of the book details and stuff is just so magnetic. You are just this sunshine, all over that page. Every time you would post, I would just be like, whoa. So I was so excited to meet you in person and discover that you were just as good of a hugger as I thought you would be.
Thanks for that.
So tell me a little bit about your business. I actually know a little bit about what everybody here does except for you. So tell me a little bit more about your business, and I'd love to hear kind of your journey, your story to how you came to Colorado and how you started your business.
Yeah, most of what I do is all shamanic work. So I'm a shaman and I own Mobile Shaman. And the point behind that is to really get people to connect mind, body, spirit, soul selves. Because any human in life, when you have trauma, we have a separation. So that's called a soul loss. And with the soul loss, when you have more and more and more of those, like abused children, like I was, they have a hard time finding out who they are or what makes them happy, or they'll move from this to this to this to this kind of thing, because
Or
they're
living in fear of repercussions of their decisions, and
won't share their voice. I used to be the most shyest girl you'd ever want to meet. I would go to a party, maybe, and I would find a way to get in the back way, and I would sit in a corner, and I would never speak to someone unless they spoke to me first, because growing up in the South, that's the way we were raised. Children were seen, they were not heard. You were to be quiet. So
I can't even, just knowing the energy that I know of, I can't even believe that that was ever you.
Yeah. My first partner I was ever with, anytime we'd go anywhere, was just like, you're just such a bump on the log. You don't interact with anybody. You don't do, I'm like, sorry, kind of thing back then. But I had to find me, which is one of the reasons that led me to Colorado. Was everything about my family was devout Southern Baptist, and being openly gay, it just did not mesh.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So it just did not mesh, and my life was never really about me. And I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't even know what that was. And so I visited my best friend here. Her and her partner were like, you know what? Why don't you come visit us? We'll cheer you up, let you see something new, get high off Colorado. I mean, in the elevation, not marijuana. And I fell in love with it. And I'm like, oh my God, I could live here. And she goes, why don't you? And my partner and I had split, and I was just like, okay, let me think about that. And so I asked for my signs, like, where am I supposed to go? And I got my signs and just made it happen, because it was high tide that I'd take all this training, because I used to beg my mother, please put me in therapy, because I really wanted to tackle what I was dealing with. And it wasn't until, probably 2014 that I found a company similar to Domenic's, but it's called Landmark, and they help you, instrumental, put your past in the past. It doesn't control you anymore. So while those nasty things happened, it never defines me anymore. It's not my identity. I don't have it tied to that. So marrying that with my shamanic work and actually doing that type of work, I was able to get out of that mix, that toxicity, and create a life that was for me, because I made a pact. When I was 22, I did try to take my own life, and it was all that. It was coming out to my family. I just felt like I had no one. I felt like I was a total loser.
I am glad that you were horribly unsuccessful in that endeavor.
Me too. And I lived to speak about it. But I made that pact that day with God. I was like, because I still kept my faith. It's just I'm not religious. So I just kept my basis there. And I said, since you obviously spared me for a reason, because there was no medical reason why I survived. I knew what I was doing. And I said, I will always work on myself, and I'll always work with other people. And so that got me into the realm of shamanism, because I have Native American heritage, and I really felt I came home. I really connected with that in a way that I could share that with other people of, you don't have to be any lineage. You don't have to be any nationality. You don't have to be any religion. Every person on the planet can do this, because we've all had soul loss. And we all need that connection. We all need that intermingling. We all need that support. Kind of similar to what Aude said about finding your tribe. That's one of my favorite things to say. Your tribe attracts your vibe, or your vibe attracts your tribe. It works both ways. So,
I agree with that completely. I also went through a couple of huge transformations in my lifetime, but the latest one was when I went through my divorce. I was very self-unassured. I was attracting not the right kind of people into my life, especially like coming right out of my marriage, when I was feeling very scared and uneasy. And then it was only through healing my own vibe that I've attracted a much more sturdy, grounded tribe. I believe that in 100%. And I just wanted to touch on the spirituality thing again too, because so my sister's gay, and I know that she hasn't really become a spiritual person. She's definitely not religious, because as you well know, growing up, you just can't be gay and go to a Christian church. I mean, it's changed significantly. There are some amazing churches out there now, but that was not the dialogue when we were growing up. It was
the 70s.
No, absolutely not. And so she never really found a spirituality in her life because of that. And it always made me really sad, because I've always, as an art historian, I always studied a lot of different religions. And so I always knew I was a very spiritual person, and I would oftentimes feel that godly presence, that universal presence while being at church. But I also felt like church for me as a straight woman was a safe place to feel that. And so I love that now with our generation and the generations younger than ours, that there's this new understanding of what spirituality is. It's not, we're not just prescribing to the religions that our parents practiced or that we've been taught through church or school or wherever we pick these things up. We have this understanding now that there's this whole world of information at our fingertips, and we understand that spiritual is this connection that we find within ourselves, and that it's not coming through some humanly source of power that's telling us what our spirit should be. So I love that you found this strong sense of spirit through your journey and through what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's beautiful to share with other people. Like Mobile Shaman, the whole point of that was to share it more with the world. Like myself and my team, I have 2 other ladies that help me kind of do this, is we'll travel to like Washington, DC, and it's just a group of women, like high profile women. Like one woman was FBI, one was CIA, one worked for the president, you know, kind of thing. These women coming together, that one, they were looking for community and connection, but 2, they were really looking for something that they can kind of find themselves in a spiritual realm. And none of them knew anything about shamanism. And I keep it to where I do mention God a little bit, but it's not the basis of everything. Meaning it's really about that person, because no 2 people's journeys are the same. So journeys are real similar to like a meditative state. It's all going within.
Well, and not to go on a total tangent, but for me, the way that I've come to understand God is this universal, overwhelming power of love that's all over around us, but it's not physical. So we have a hard time defining it. But if you look at all religions, it's their understanding that there's this greater power with the driving force of love. And that's what we call God or Allah or whatever, however we define it.
Yeah. It's all personal interpretation of how they do define it. You know, like the Southern Baptists, as far as it was hellfire and damnation. And that's why I would get kicked out of Sunday school, because I'm like, well, the book I read was about love and acceptance, and you're teaching the opposite. You need to go sit with your mother. So I always rebuked it, because I'm like, that's not what's in there.
Okay, so your business is called Mobile Shaman, but just to be clear, like you're not washing dogs and serving tacos.
No, we'll go to like a city, like we went to Washington, D.C., and we create private classes or weekends or retreats where it's just women, usually women. It can be men or women, doesn't matter. I'm definitely not a man hater at all. And it's just people that want to come together, that want to connect and experience in a new way, or see what's available to themselves. Like soul loss is, every single person on the planet has had soul loss. This is a great way to get those pieces of yourself back in a safe environment, surrounded by people that want to do the same.
So I have to tell you, my guest next month, she actually has been helping me heal a lot of my soul losses. And I didn't really I don't think that I really believed it at first, but I'm pretty open-minded about trying new things. So I was like, well, it can't hurt to try. And you know what? It's working.
Yeah, good.
It's working in really big ways.
I'm so glad you got that.
Yes, me too. So just 2 more questions. So when you say, so you say you travel to places, but do people reach out to you to bring you into their organizations to be a shaman for their events, or?
Not organizations. I've never had an organization do it. But you see a board back and behind me. So I'm at college. I went back to college after almost 30 years because it was the only regret I had in my life, was not finishing my degree, because I dropped it for my family.
That's pretty impressive that you only have 1 regret in your life. Yeah,
that's it. So I pretty much live from a place of love, and I'll make the actions what are in my best interest. But it took me a while to get there. So it's at the college. I do shamanic journey circles here at the college. So this is the first quote unquote like business that's had me come and do these. But I'm a student here. So and when I did it for the staff, they were crying, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't even know what this was. I didn't know what to expect. I had my expectations, and all that just fell away." Well, that's kind of like a veil. we all live life with the kind of like this, you know, it's kind of like, you know, that's kind of how we live. Yeah. Just like that. And so it's a great way to just go, okay, I have to shed it all because I want that piece of me back. Prime example of a soul loss is like my 8-year-old self. I always loved to play jacks and ball. So when I got a soul retrieval, which is what that's called, the practitioner told me, or the shaman, you know, make sure you do what that 8-year-old wants to do. So what is that? Well, she just want to play jacks and ball and get a pedicure. So I did that. And that was a way to honor that self that's coming back to you. So I haven't, quote unquote, had any organizations. It's a lot of one-on-one, or it's those group circles. Like at the end of the month, we'll be in Aurora. Oh, it's actually this Friday. We'll be in Aurora doing a sound journey circle. So I have my two ladies on my team that they play their crystal bowls and gongs while I do the shamanic drumming, and we do it together. So now they get sound healing as they do a shamanic journey. And it's really powerful.
Okay, so I'm going to be posting this on YouTube late. My day is crazy sauce, you guys, but I'm going to be taking this recorded link at some point today and putting it on YouTube and then posting it on Facebook. So be sure to add your event in the comments underneath the, so everybody can find it.
And if you can send me the audio recording, I can create a podcast for our podcast club because I'm president of that. So
that
we can do
sounds
a podcast.
Fancy. I'd love that.
Right? All I need is the audio, not the video. So
all the better. Then everybody can just like pick their noses and nobody will know. Oh, wait, except for this is recorded. Okay, so I know we've been asking the same question, but what was the greatest thing that helped you transform from where you didn't want to be to where you are now, or what you would suggest if you could give advice on something maybe you did wrong on your journey from getting from point A to B, and it would have really helped you move forward faster?
I never spoke up. I never spoke my truth. Give yourself the room and the permission to heal. It's essential. We just think we have to be perfect. We think we have to have it all together. And people are like, oh, you're so grounded, so this, so that. I didn't used to be. I had to get here. I had to do the work. I'm about to be 48 in almost a week and a half. And so it's like, you got to do the work, but you got to be willing to be vulnerable and show your mess. It's okay. Or be around those people that love you no matter what, because no one and nothing is perfect.
I love that. I know that was the biggest part of my transformation was really kind of grabbing my voice by the you-know-whats.
Yep.
Because I was terrified to speak my truth. I was terrified to ask for what I wanted. And I largely lived my life expecting that everybody would just do the right thing the way that I always thought I was doing the right thing. And being sure of your truth and then being not afraid of what other people think to speak it is huge. It's so liberating.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of men being part of the world and our process and procreation and all that stuff. But there's something about women that we are just taught from the get-go that we are diminished and we are less than, especially growing up in the South. It was very male dominated and very patriarchy. And so I really want to be a stand that helps all women come together. And, you know, men sometimes suffer that too, especially gay men, where they're just like, well, I'm not masculine. Well, I'm kind of more feminine. So they just put me in this category kind of thing. So I really want to help people find their voice and be able to speak their truth.
And then you've brought up men a couple times. So as you're working with men, I highly recommend, if you haven't grabbed it already, there's this book by Lewis Howes called The Mask of Masculinity. And it's not an overly complicated book, but he really breaks down all of these masks that men feel like they need to wear to be a masculine, recognized as kind of a masculine force in the world. And he kind of defines them and what that means under these different masks that men feel like they have to wear. And for most men, they're wearing several masks to kind of live up to these expectations of what being a man in our world means. But I highly recommend it if you are wanting to help men with like some of the personas that they feel like they have to act out in order to be accepted in their lives.
Yeah, that's great. I'll have to remember that. If you can put that in the comments, that would be awesome.
You might need to remind me, but yes.
You sound as bad as me.
As bad. I actually, a friend of mine just recommended that she's been using iodine and drops in her coffee, and she said it's really helped with her brain fog. So I just started this morning. So I'm hoping in another week, I'm going to be so sharp, you guys aren't even going to recognize me.
And I'm allergic to iodine.
I'm going to complete all of my sentences.
Oh, man. Wow.
Thank you so much, Dina, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, Christina, last but certainly not least. Christina was also one of my guests on one of my prior workshops, and you and I talked all about bringing in tools for peace for kids and tools for confidence for kids. And it was a really fun workshop. I really enjoyed it. So share with us a little bit about your journey. I know a little bit about it, so I won't jump in so everybody else can hear. But tell us a little bit about your journey of how you struggled with some of those same things that you now help people with in the business that you do.
So first of all, thanks for having me and having me on that workshop too. That was really cool.
Sure, it was so nice to have you.
And I'm almost sitting here in tears because of listening to all of you guys. The two people like Dina and Aude, I was just sitting there, yes, I feel the same. I'm from Germany originally, so I feel the moving away part. And it took me 9 years to get grounded. I'm now in Washington State. I came here over a year ago. Oh my gosh, time is running. But I got here and I felt like home, and that I was missing that for such a long time. But yeah, and then again, what you said, Dina, about your voice, like I'm still figuring out my voice and what my truth is, but I'm speaking up now. And as a kid, I was told to be quiet and not make yourself heard or seen or noticed. Like you just need to entertain yourself. As a 4 or 5 year old kid, like that doesn't work. So, and I see that like in my generation, talking to my friends that are still in Germany, I feel like they're stuck in something that society wants them to do and be, and what's expected of them, and they can't break out. Like every time we meet or we talk, they're like, I can't do what you do. It's cool what you do, but I'm not able to do that. And I'm just sitting here like, yes, you can. Everybody can. Like it's not magic. But I see that like working through a lot of the stuff, like not being able to talk, hating myself, not being able to look myself in the mirror and, accepting and respecting the person that I am. I want to help the teenagers, the people that don't have a voice. And it's mostly those, like I'm a part of a group for youth, for 11-year-olds. And I hear them talk about that they don't have a life, that there's no fun in life. And I'm like, you're 11 years old. Like you should enjoy everything. You should still have that childlike passion for anything, that wonder and magic. And they're just sitting there and it's not like I can't feel anything. And I'm like, that is what I want to do. I want to give them their power back so they don't have to suffer and wait. Like it took me 20 years to get out of this and finally get on the road. And I don't want to have anybody else to wait that long.
Absolutely. I talk about this all the time with my abundant parent messages on YouTube and in the workshops pretty often as well. It's like all of the tools that we've learned over the course of the lifetime, all of these messages that it took us a lifetime to understand just through our own work, because we just weren't introduced to these ideas that we are powerful, that our voice is valid. I always think, can you imagine if all of the women in the world, if all of the children of the world, male or female, if they all knew from the very beginning their incredible capacity to create their reality through their perspective, that they are valid and they are authentic in their own beautiful way, and what they have to say is important. I mean, what the work that you're doing, Christina, is so important, because these messages, it just takes one adult to touch one child for them to realize that there's so much more for them. And that adult could be you, like in this, when you're meeting with kids who are 11 years old. I mean, can you imagine being 11 in this day and age with social media? They now have a name. They're called tweens. I mean, there's labels for them now. They have all of these expectations of not only should they be a famous vlogger by the time they're 12, but they also should be a certain body type and a certain image, and they should have a certain amount of money, and they should have a certain kind of friend. And I can't imagine being 11 years old in this day and age.
There's a lot of pressure, like immense pressure, for sure.
Absolutely. So on your journey through creating well, did you touch on the fact that you actually used to be an athlete?
No, I didn't.
I kind of think that that's an important part too, because of the pressures that we put on ourselves when we are performing for points or awards, so definitely talk about that a little bit.
I was an athlete, and I have a 9-year-old older sister. So I was always competing with everyone around me. There's so much, like I got into this sport when I was 10, 11 years old, and it was intense trainings and competitions and team sport events. Like it came up to 4 or 5 times a week. And I did that for 8 years, constantly, like on top of school and all that other stuff going on that as a teenager. And it was like moving around a lot. In Germany, we don't, distances, like half an hour is a long way for us. So when we were driving like 1 hour, 2 hours away, that was like a lot of pressure again, like, making it work somehow.
Well, when you're driving on the Autobahn at 300 miles per hour, I'm sure it doesn't take very long to get anywhere.
Yeah, I wish. That would be nice. No, but yeah, it was like, now looking back at it, I had nobody there that would support me mentally. Like I had trainers that helped me, like perfecting my skills and all of that, but nobody ever told me about the mental aspect of it. And I feel like if I just had that one person, or just someone to talk to about that, it would have been a totally different experience. And I'm not blaming anybody, because they all did their best, what they knew back then. But I feel that that's like another really big passion of mine. Like if I could support an athletic person and just being there, coaching them, that would be amazing.
Well, I can definitely see that in your journey, where, oftentimes our journey comes through the pain that we've experienced, and the perspective that we've gotten from the lessons that we've learned. And it definitely sounds like so much of what you do now is helping people build their strength mentally in understanding their ability to find calm in their own life and to soothe themselves and to recognize their own beautiful self within. So I can definitely see in your journey how you've transformed your own pain into something that can really not only heal yourself and help you, you're a mom, also help you make sure your daughter doesn't experience those same things, but then also to help other people really find that peace and that ease mentally. It's so important.
It is, like, it was one of the biggest steps for me personally. Like, yes, we need all the, the time management skills and making sure that our body's healthy. But once I figured out that I can control my own mind, everything changed.
I know you feel so powerful.
Yes.
All right. So same question. So we've talked about your journey and the things that have helped you along the way. But if you were to give advice on the number one thing, or the thing that came up maybe even the most frequently, the little lesson or the tool on your journey that came up the most often that you really leaned on to get you from being where you were to where you wanted to be, what would you say that was?
That is such a tough question, because I use so many different things. But the thing that got me started is I went to a lot of in-person personal development talks and workshops. And I did a lot of personal development tests, like tests that somebody else would tell me, not just the Facebook tests where you can figure out who you are. And I'm sure that's, a good start.
Right, because everybody looks like Marilyn Monroe when they're done with those tests.
Pretty much, yes. But that one, like, really went into, like, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, but not pointing them out as being bad, but what you can do with that. And for me, like, that helped me tremendously just in the in communication, interpersonal communication with my husband. Like we are fighting less because I now know how to communicate with him. And that just came from that small test and understanding who I am and what I am about. So.
Absolutely. And it's so nice that there's all of this information available to us online, that we can watch speakers on YouTube and that we can listen to podcasts and we can really grow. But there's something so powerful about getting face to face with real life people and exchanging that energy and having that opportunity to connect and see facial expressions and get immediate response. And it's a really powerful thing. And then touching on how you said it really helped your relationship, in your marriage as well. I think there's a lot of authors that speak to this, but I think more recently I heard it from Brene Brown, but it's this idea that we are all the hero of our own stories. So as soon as you recognize that when people are frustrated with you, you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes. You have to understand that they are the hero of their own story, and that it's very likely that you sound crazy sauce or that you are offensive to them in some way, just based off of their own life experience, the traumas, the good times, the lessons that they've learned, the books that they've read. They're going to interpret things completely different than you are. And I think as soon as you recognize that we are all the heroes of our own story, and you put even the people that you're not fond of in that same light, it changes everything. It really enables you to approach conflict and arguments and disagreements in a much different way.
Yes, and at that time, like the one specifically the situation that I was talking or referring to is my husband was deployed at that time, and I was sitting in Germany, and we had all that space already between us, and then figuring out, over the phone, trying to figure out what emotional state you're in right now, not knowing what he went through that day or at work, and he didn't know what I went through with our daughter back then and all that, and but it clicked. Like I did the test like 2 days prior and read through all the commentary and feedback that I got. And I'm like, I was sitting there and I'm like, no, wait, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say this right now. That's not what he needs to hear right now. And it
don't poke the bear.
Yeah. Like it was like, I was looking at me, like sitting there and like, no, hold on.
Because you've grown, you have the tools now that you know how to manage that situation differently.
Exactly. And I that's like one of the things that I always recommend to at least my generation, my friends. I'm like, do that. If you just do one thing, just do that. You learn so much about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Christina, for being here. Thank you guys all for joining in. So just if you ended up listening to this later, I actually had a guest that was scheduled today on the Abundant Parent Membership Workshops, and she was really sick. Her kid also had a really rough week, so I think it was the combination of things. So she had to cancel. And so I just kind of reached out to this amazing community of people that I've met over the last couple of years, and I asked if everybody wanted to get together and just fill the time. It was really important for me to still show up today for my community, for the people that were expecting to have content today. I will still produce a workshop, so this is not a replacement for that. But I'm just so grateful that we were talking about vibes and like your vibe tribe, right? Well, all the people that are here today have been attracted into my life since my vibe has changed, since I've loved myself more as a person, since I've grown, since I've seen all of the bad stuff that's happened in my life as lessons and redirection. And I'm just so grateful that they are all a part of my life. And thank you guys so much for being here and doing this live with me.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, guys. Be sure, everybody who's been on today, be sure to post your businesses in the comments when I get the post up. When I put it on YouTube, I'll try to put all of your links in the description of the YouTube video also. But when I post it on social media, be sure to throw in your business pages and stuff in there, because I would love so much for people to know more about what you guys are doing. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.